This video contains audio content only. There are no visual elements or images accompanying the audio. If you're expecting to see video footage, please note that this is an intentional audio-only presentation. We recommend listening to this content rather than watching the screen. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the audio. Welcome, fellow food enthusiasts and cultural explorers. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating journey into the heart of Africa to discover the rich, complex, and often overlooked culinary traditions of Chad. Situated at the crossroads of North and Central Africa, Chad's cuisine tells a story of survival, adaptation, and cultural fusion that spans centuries. From the nomadic traditions of the Saharan North to the fertile savannas of the South, we'll explore how geography, history, and culture have shaped one of Africa's most interesting yet least documented food cultures. What makes Chadian cuisine particularly fascinating is its role as a living museum of African culinary traditions. Unlike many other African nations whose traditional food practices have been heavily influenced by globalization, Chad's relative isolation has preserved cooking methods and recipes that date back generations. Yet, this isn't a story of stagnation. It's a tale of remarkable adaptation and resilience. Imagine starting your day in N'Djamena, Chad's capital, where the aroma of freshly fermented Kissar wafts through the morning air, while vendors prepare their stalls for the day's trade. As we delve deeper into this culinary landscape, we'll discover how food isn't just sustenance here, it's a language of hospitality, a marker of social status, and a bridge between Chad's diverse ethnic communities. Today's exploration will take us through the intricate tapestry of Chadian cuisine, from its humble daily staples to elaborate celebration dishes, from ancient cooking techniques to modern adaptations. We'll examine how political changes, particularly French colonization, have left their mark on the country's food culture, and how contemporary Chadians are preserving their culinary heritage while adapting to modern realities. But before we dive into specific dishes and traditions, let me share a personal anecdote that perfectly illustrates the unique character of Chadian cuisine. During my research, I came across a fascinating account from a food historian who described watching a group of women in a small village near Lake Chad preparing Kissar, the traditional sourdough pancake. What struck him wasn't just the technique, though that was remarkable, but how the entire process was accompanied by specific songs and movements, turning what could be a mundane cooking task into a celebration of community and tradition. 1. The art of Kissar, a testament to time and tradition. In the heart of Chad's culinary tradition lies Kissar, a remarkable sourdough pancake that tells the story of generations of culinary expertise. Unlike ordinary pancakes, Kissar represents a sophisticated understanding of fermentation that predates modern food science. The process begins with a simple mixture of rice or semolina flour, yogurt, and yeast, but what happens next is nothing short of culinary alchemy. The batter must ferment for at least 12 hours, though traditionalists insist on a full 24-hour fermentation period to achieve the perfect balance of sourness and complexity. What makes Kissar truly fascinating is its cultural significance. In many Chadian households, the preparation of Kissar is a rhythmic dance passed down through generations. Women gather before dawn, their movements synchronized as they prepare the batter, their songs echoing ancient wisdom about fermentation times and consistency. The process is so precise that even the ambient temperature is taken into account, a skill that comes not from thermometers but from generations of experience. A particularly interesting aspect of Kissar is its role in Chad's marriage traditions. In some communities, a young woman's ability to make perfect Kissar is considered a crucial skill for marriage. There's even a saying that translates roughly to, "A good Kissar maker never lacks suitors." The pancake must be perfectly round, with tiny holes across its surface, called the eyes of the Kissar, and achieve the right balance between thickness and flexibility. Too thick, and it won't fold properly; too thin, and it won't hold the accompanying sauces. Modern adaptations of Kissar reveal the resilience of Chadian cuisine. In N'Djamena's bustling restaurants, you'll find Kissar served with French-inspired sauces, showing how colonial influences have been absorbed into traditional cuisine without compromising its essential character. Some innovative cooks are even experimenting with different flours, though purists insist that straying from traditional ingredients diminishes the authentic sourdough flavor that makes Kissar unique. 2. The North-South divide, a tale of two culinary traditions. The geographical diversity of Chad has created two distinct culinary traditions that mirror the country's dramatic landscape. In the north, where the Sahara Desert dominates, nomadic communities have developed a cuisine based on preservation and mobility. Here, dried meat, particularly char maut, dried meat preserved with spices, becomes an art form. The process of making char maut is fascinating. Strips of meat are dried in the desert sun, then pounded with specific spices that serve both as flavoring and natural preservatives. In contrast, the southern regions, blessed with more rainfall and fertile soil, have developed a cuisine rich in fresh vegetables, fruits, and grains. This division is perfectly exemplified in the preparation of labouli, a traditional breakfast porridge. Northern versions often incorporate dried milk and dates, while southern variations might include fresh fruits and locally grown peanuts. What's particularly interesting is how these regional differences play out in modern Chadian society. During important national celebrations, both northern and southern dishes are deliberately featured together as a symbol of national unity. This culinary diplomacy has become so important that state banquets typically alternate between northern and southern dishes throughout the meal. A remarkable example of this north-south fusion occurs during traditional wedding ceremonies. A bride from the north marrying into a southern family might bring her family's char maut recipes, while adopting her new family's techniques for preparing okra-based sauces. This culinary exchange has led to unique hybrid dishes that aren't found anywhere else in Africa. 3. The sacred art of communal dining, more than just a meal. Perhaps nothing exemplifies Chadian culture more profoundly than their communal dining practices. In Chad, eating alone is considered not just unusual, but almost taboo. The traditional way of serving meals involves large communal plates placed on mats on the ground, with diners seated in a precise arrangement that reflects social hierarchy and relationships. What's fascinating is how this seemingly simple arrangement carries complex social codes that every Chadian learns from childhood. A particularly interesting aspect is the unspoken choreography of the meal. The tradition dictates that diners eat only from the portion of the communal plate directly in front of them, creating an invisible pie chart division of the food. However, it's considered a mark of respect and affection when an elder takes a choice piece of meat and places it in front of a younger diner. This gesture is known as baraka, or blessing, and receiving it is considered an honor. One of the most surprising aspects of Chadian dining etiquette is the role of silence during meals. Unlike Western traditions where mealtime conversation is encouraged, traditional Chadian meals begin in near-complete silence. This practice stems from a belief that talking while eating not only shows disrespect for the food but can also invite malevolent spirits. The silence is broken only after the first few minutes, and even then, conversation remains minimal and purposeful. The gender separation during meals, while sometimes misunderstood by outsiders, reveals fascinating insights into Chadian social structure. Men and women typically eat separately, but this separation creates unique spaces for social bonding and knowledge transfer. Women's dining groups, for instance, often become informal cooking schools where younger women learn not just recipes, but also important social and cultural lessons. 4. The French colonial influence, a culinary revolution. The impact of French colonization on Chadian cuisine presents one of the most interesting cases of culinary adaptation in Africa. When France established control over Chad in 1920, they brought not just their administrative systems but their culinary traditions as well. The result was not a simple replacement of local dishes with French ones, but rather a fascinating fusion that transformed both cuisines. Take the case of Jarret de Boeuf, a prime example of this fusion. While clearly French in origin, the Chadian version incorporates local spices and cooking techniques that create something entirely new. Local cooks adapted the French method of slow cooking beef shanks but added indigenous ingredients like pimento, local hot peppers, and ground peanuts, creating a dish that's neither fully French nor traditionally Chadian. A particularly amusing anecdote from this period involves the French attempt to introduce baguettes to Chad. The story goes that early French administrators were horrified by the absence of bread in the Chadian diet and attempted to establish bakeries in major towns. However, local cooks quickly began experimenting with local grains like millet and sorghum in their bread making, creating unique hybrid breads that better suited local tastes and available ingredients. The most successful adaptations occurred when French techniques were applied to local ingredients. For instance, the French method of sauce reduction was applied to traditional okra stews, creating thicker, more concentrated flavors that became popular throughout the country. This technique, combined with traditional fermentation methods, led to the development of new dishes that are now considered quintessentially Chadian. 5. The miracle of millet, a grain that shaped a nation. The story of millet in Chad is not just about agriculture or nutrition. It's about survival, innovation, and cultural identity. This hardy grain has shaped Chadian society in ways that few outsiders fully understand. What's particularly fascinating is how different communities have developed distinct preparation methods that reflect their specific environmental challenges and cultural preferences. One of the most remarkable aspects of millet cultivation in Chad is the traditional knowledge system surrounding it. Farmers can predict rainfall patterns by observing millet's growth stages, a skill passed down through generations. They've developed such intimate knowledge of the grain that they can identify dozens of varieties by subtle differences in color and texture, each suited to specific cooking purposes and environmental conditions. The transformation of millet into ayash, millet balls, represents one of Chad's most ingenious culinary innovations. The process involves grinding the millet into flour, then carefully forming it into balls that are served with various sauces. What makes this preparation method particularly clever is how it solves multiple challenges at once. It preserves the grain, makes it portable, and creates a filling meal that can withstand Chad's intense heat without spoiling. A particularly interesting tradition involves the millet blessing ceremony that takes place before major harvests. During this ritual, which few outsiders have witnessed, village elders gather to taste the first millet of the season. They believe that the way the grain breaks in their mouths can predict the success of the coming harvest. While this might seem merely superstitious, agricultural scientists have noted that the texture of early millet grains can indeed indicate growing conditions and potential yield. 6. The Lake Chad culinary economy, a vanishing heritage. The story of Lake Chad's influence on local cuisine is both fascinating and tragic. Once one of Africa's largest freshwater bodies, Lake Chad has shrunk dramatically over the past 50 years, transforming not just the environment but the entire culinary tradition of the region. The lake's history reads like a culinary thriller, full of unexpected twists and remarkable adaptations. The most interesting aspect is how local communities have adapted their fishing and cooking techniques as the lake has receded. Traditional recipes that once called for large lake fish have been modified to work with smaller species. The famous maboki de capitaine, once made exclusively with the prized Nile perch, has evolved to incorporate whatever catch is available, yet locals have managed to maintain its distinctive flavor through clever spice combinations. A particularly poignant example of this adaptation is the evolution of fish preservation techniques. As fishing becomes more uncertain, traditional methods of smoking and drying fish have become increasingly sophisticated. The process now involves a complex understanding of smoke intensity, wood selection, and drying times that rivals modern food preservation techniques. Local fish processors can achieve preservation times of up to 6 months without any modern technology, a remarkable feat in Chad's harsh climate. What's especially fascinating is how the lake's shrinking has led to the emergence of new culinary traditions. Communities have begun incorporating more desert-adapted ingredients into their traditional fish recipes. For instance, the practice of using desert dates, known locally as mukite, to flavor fish stews began as a necessity when traditional ingredients became scarce but has now become a cherished part of local cuisine. 7. Drinks and potions, the liquid culture of Chad. Perhaps one of the most overlooked aspects of Chadian cuisine is its fascinating drink culture. The story begins with kurkanji, a vibrant red hibiscus drink that's much more than just a refreshing beverage. What makes kurkanji particularly interesting is its dual role as both a social drink and a traditional medicine. Local healers prescribe specific preparations of the drink for various ailments, with each recipe carefully guarded and passed down through generations. The preparation of jus de fruit, Chad's traditional smoothie, reveals an ingenious understanding of flavor combinations that predates modern nutrition science. What's fascinating is how the drink varies by region and season. In the south, where mangoes are plentiful, the drink takes on a golden hue and thick consistency. In the north, where fresh fruits are scarcer, creative alternatives using dates and local berries have evolved. The addition of cardamom, a spice not native to Chad, tells a story of ancient trade routes and cultural exchange. One of the most surprising discoveries is the role of millet beer, or bili-bili, in Chadian society. In non-Muslim communities, the production of bili-bili is considered a woman's art, with recipes and fermentation techniques closely guarded as family secrets. What's remarkable is how the brewing process has remained largely unchanged for centuries, despite the availability of modern alternatives. Each brewer's bili-bili has a unique signature taste, and regular customers can identify their preferred brewer's product blindfolded. 8. Modern challenges and future preservation. The story of Chadian cuisine today is one of resilience in the face of significant challenges. Climate change, urbanization, and changing dietary preferences among younger generations threaten traditional food practices. However, what's remarkable is how communities are adapting while maintaining their culinary identity. In N'Djameni's restaurants, innovative chefs are creating fusion dishes that honor traditional ingredients while appealing to modern palates. For example, the traditional Kissar is now being served as a wrap with international fillings, while maintaining its traditional fermentation process. What's particularly interesting is how these adaptations are often led by young Chadians who have studied abroad and returned with new ideas about preserving their culinary heritage. A fascinating development is the emergence of food preservation cooperatives, particularly in rural areas. These groups, often led by women, are documenting traditional recipes and techniques while adapting them for modern kitchens. They've created a remarkable system where traditional knowledge is preserved through both oral tradition and modern documentation methods. In closing our exploration of Chad's remarkable culinary landscape, we've uncovered a world where food is far more than sustenance. It's a living, breathing testament to human adaptability and cultural preservation. What makes this cuisine truly remarkable is how it continues to evolve while maintaining its core identity, much like the Chadian people themselves. The insights we've gained today reveal something profound about the relationship between food and cultural identity. From the intricate preparation of Kissar to the communal dining rituals, from the adaptation of French influences to the preservation of traditional drinks, each aspect of Chadian cuisine tells a story of resilience and innovation. As we look to the future, the challenges facing Chadian cuisine, from climate change to changing social patterns, are significant. Yet, if history is any guide, these challenges will likely spark new innovations while preserving the essential character of this unique culinary tradition. The young chefs and food preservationists we discussed are already showing us how tradition and innovation can coexist harmoniously. This exploration of Chadian cuisine reminds us that food is never just about eating. It's about community, identity, and survival. It's about how people adapt to their environment while maintaining their cultural essence. As one Chadian chef beautifully put it, every meal we prepare is a conversation with our ancestors. I encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you tried any Chadian dishes? What aspects of this culinary tradition surprised you the most? And if you're interested in learning more about African cuisines and their cultural significance, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for joining me on this culinary journey through Chad. Remember, understanding a culture's food is often the first step to understanding its soul. Until our next exploration, stay curious and keep exploring the amazing world of food and culture.